I'm so glad you've joined me for this edition of Buncombe Life. It's a special edition to me because this is, we've chosen to take a walk down memory lane with somebody very special, someone who's finishing up his career as a public servant after 20 years in office. I think most of you who are watching probably know him. He's going to tell us some things that he's proud of, some things that he was surprised about. I think you'll find it very interesting. So come along with me and let's go talk with David Gantt. Thank you, David, for doing this with us out here this morning. Thank you for joining us. This is an exciting video or exciting episode, I think, because you're finishing up. You're finishing up a big career. And we're going to do a little walk down memory lane this morning. 20 years ago, as we stand here in front of a new courthouse, I was just thinking, around the corner 20 years ago is where people came to the courthouse. But not anymore, and that's been part of your legacy, what we stand in front of. But I want to go back. I want to go back 20 years. What made you run for commissioner 20 years ago? What made you think I'm jumping into this political thing? What made you do that?
Well, I'd been president of the Glen Arden PTA, and I'd learned a little bit about the schools, how they're doing, what we needed to do. I'd learned that the county basically builds the buildings for schools, K through 12, and some of AB Tech. I learned that the teacher salaries were supplemented by the county. And I just felt I wanted to get involved because my kids were going through school, and I had a stake in the community. I think I've told you several times that when I started off, I literally practiced law on the back of my car for about a year. I didn't have an office, I didn't have anything, so things were starting to go better, and I felt, well, I've got something to give back to the community. But it was mainly the schools. I saw the facilities. We didn't have soccer fields. I saw Judge Lewis trying really, really hard to build a new courthouse. And of course that was voted down by the people.
It was.
And I came over here every day and I saw how much the need was for a new courthouse. I mean, it was great in the 20s. And it was probably great for many decades after that. But in the times we're living, you needed a new courthouse. And so to have an opportunity to help be part of building the new courthouse was just a wonderful experience for me.
But even that took 20 years. It wasn't something that you just came and said, okay, gosh, I'm a commissioner now, let's build a courthouse.
Right. You know? Well, that's the thing a lot of people don't know. You know, no matter what ideas you have, no matter what your dreams and hopes are, you have to have a majority of the board to support you. I mean, we have some commissioners right now on the board that don't get that. But it's something that was taught to me very early. Actually, Gene Rainey, actually the chairman before I was even on the board, told me to make sure you always had a majority.
That's right.
And so it worked great. We had great people with us. We had Tom Sobel, Bill Stanley, Patsy Keever, David Young, Carol Peterson. We just had Nathan Ramsey, had some wonderful leadership and people that wanted to get things done. So it became real easy. But I wanted to get involved because I saw we needed new libraries, we needed some new schools. And I had no idea the interest rates would go to 3%. But they did, and so that gave us even more of an opportunity to build and catch up with things we should have done a long time ago.
Was that a big surprise to you, though, when you came on as a commissioner, that you couldn't just say, well, gosh, I'd like to do this, and it happened?
Yes. I think the two surprises I would put out were that one commissioner by him or herself really can't do anything but get information. And so once you learn that, then you can start working on building your relationship, friendships, and trust with the other commissioners. I tried to meet with all the commissioners at least once a month. Sometimes all we do is talk about our families. We didn't even talk about politics. But you want to have that relationship so that when something's needed, or you need help, or you need a vote, you can more easily approach them.
And realizing, I think you did, and I think all the folks that you just mentioned realize this, that you're building today for something you may never see.
That's right.
I mean, y'all have been very fortunate to see a lot of the things you started way back when come to fruition and happen. But some people never do. But they work today for something way in the future. I don't think people realize that that's a hard thing in politics.
Yeah, and in September we had the blessing to open 3 new schools in 1 week.
Right.
And that was the first time in our history that had happened. And there are commissioners that never get to open even 1 school.
Right.
And I told the other ones that we should be appreciative of that. That we have this opportunity to do this that is just unprecedented. And so, yeah, you really have to enjoy the moment. You have to enjoy the people you're with, because you're just building on the shoulders of people that came before you.
Right. What are some of the biggest changes that you have seen, other than, like we've just said, you don't even go in the courthouse from the front anymore? All of our buildings now have security. That's just one change we've seen in 20 years. What are some other things that you
Well, I can remember technology being totally different. We were debating whether to televise. You used to give us notebooks, hand copies, and there was always a feeling that we got a few more sheets than the public did. And so I think it was a real good thing for transparency in government when we said, we're going to post it online and you're going to get to see the exact same thing the commissioners. There's no secret documents in there.
Right. There was no social media 20 years ago.
None.
There were no smartphones.
There was URTV.
Oh, yeah,
we were cutting edge, but it wasn't like we have now. And the social media kind of took over for the Citizens Channel that we championed and set up. And it didn't really work out. I think there were maybe some economic missteps there. And so it went under, but it came back up under social media. But I think that you were always pretty far. You and Wanda Green, our wonderful county manager, were way ahead of the curve on technology. And I think you saw that would save us time, would make us more efficient, and give us a lot of opportunities to move faster and do things that we couldn't do before.
Absolutely.
So I think the technology, I think certainly 9/11 and the security that we have to have as a prudent measure is different. And then I think just all the building, just how much we did. We totaled it up and it was like $768 million of buildings, renovations, improvements that we've done.
During some pretty difficult economic times.
Yes.
I mean, with a AAA bond rating, that's a pretty big thing to brag about too.
Well, we're one of the few that has it. The city joined us recently in a AAA bond rating, but we have the highest bond rating. We have fewer people working for Buncombe County now than they had 20 years ago.
True.
Which could kind of be a mixed bag, because I think sometimes we might expect too much and do too much, but I think that's a goal. I don't know that's something that we should trumpet as being the best thing we've done, but it shows we're being careful with good stewards of the taxpayers' money, to use a cliche.
You know, we've skipped over a few things that I can remember back through 20 years that were difficult things that you've had to do. I can think of a few, but what's the number one thing you think of, the hardest thing you tackled?
Well, the hardest, I think, by far was zoning. And you know, we're a mountain culture. We're kind of independent. We don't want people telling us what to do at all, particularly with our land. And that's part of the beauty of who we are. But by the same token, as we grow and develop, neighbors have different ideas about what is acceptable and what is appropriate development. And so we've had a clash of cultures. We've had a clash of development. And so we really needed to have it. We started it. We made some mistakes legally. We had a referendum on it that was soundly defeated. And then I think we just said, we just need to do this.
Just got to do it.
And from zoning, we were able to do things through the zoning plan, such as steep slope, ridgetop laws, erosion laws, cell tower laws, Blue Ridge Parkway overlays, a lot of things that I think were much less controversial. And now that people say, okay, you're not going to, come get my guns, you're not going to take my land away from me, or take away my opportunity to use the land. Because I don't think anyone on the commission ever, even in their wildest dreams, wanted to take someone's land and make it so they couldn't use it. But I think there was a feeling that instead of like on these mountains, just taking out all of the trees and vegetation and just having a kingdom on top. I think there was some compromises that all people were willing to make, and we wanted to put that out there and discuss that, but it was really hard. Well, there's some real hard feelings about that.
And another hard thing that you did, and this is going back a little ways too, is siting a landfill.
Yeah.
That was difficult.
Oh my goodness.
That was very difficult, but done.
Well, it is, and we've got one of the best in the country. We're recycling. We hope one day that we'll have a landfill that can maybe be close to perpetual, where we flip the. We got a special permit to churn up the trash and recycle it and make it go down faster, so that we put in less than burns up, so we can actually keep on using it.
To site one of those.
Yeah.
Again.
Well, I mean, that's what they've done since the cavemen and women, is dig a hole in the ground, throw your trash in there.
But don't you want to say to the commissioners who are coming behind you and say, look, we've done so much for you. Appreciate what we've done and build on it.
Well,
because you've set a great, a great foundation.
Well, we've been real fortunate. We had some great people, had great staff like yourself, Wanda Green, all of John Creighton, Greg Israel, people to really keep an eye on the building to make sure we did it the right way and did it smart. We've had some wonderful folks to work with along throughout the whole 20 years I've been involved. So yeah, you build on whatever people did before you, and it does help to know about the history. Yeah. Because I wanted to see what Curtis Ratcliffe did. I wanted to see what Gene Rainey did. Dr. Montgomery, Doris Giesenthaler. I made a point to get to know all these people, because you can learn from the mistakes, even though and mistakes and the good things they did. And so it's just been a wonderful experience to learn how it all works. The biggest surprise, though, has been how it works so well.
It is amazing.
And we've got really dedicated staff. I think it's real fashionable to tear down government and say, oh, they're just a bunch of government bureaucrats and they couldn't get a job on the private. But quite the opposite. I've found that most government folks that I've worked with actually are superior to their private business counterparts.
And we're your neighbors.
That's right. That's right. So I think it's been a great experience. We've got some hardworking people that make sure the taxpayer money goes as far as it can. And I think we've had a plan on how to develop and grow Buncombe County in a really smart way that shows now in our popularity and our desirability and our growth as a community, because I think business leaders move in here knowing that the government works pretty good, the schools are good, and we have laws in place that protect everybody.
Yeah, I think you're right. Stay tuned. Glad you're still with us, because we've come up here on the beautiful day on the Parkway, because I think some of your the accomplishments you might be most proud of have something to do with the Parkway. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah. We live in a beautiful place. Everybody knows that, and the Blue Ridge Parkway is just a jewel that we can't appreciate enough. A couple things we did was you helped us inventory land that we had that we didn't really know what to do with. So we had about 700 acres that we had adjoining the Parkway that we basically got to the Parkway. We couldn't give it to them directly. We had to get money for it, but we had an intermediate group that bought it from us, and they gave it to the Parkway. So Buncombe County is part of the Blue Ridge Parkway legacy to save a good chunk of land, and it was great.
That's right. And another thing I think that I know you remember you've worked hard on, you're still working on, we will be working into the future, is to save these, what you call view sheds.
Yes.
Where people can pull over and see, and in some parts of the Parkway, people pull over and see commercial and home sites, and here we just see beauty. Well,
we were real lucky. We have a lot of national forest already in North Carolina, but we also have an opportunity to protect it. We have what's called an overlay on the Blue Ridge Parkway because we have zoning, and it goes from the center of the line about a half mile on either side where we protect it. And we have very strict rules about building We require buffers. We require a lot of thought so that when you look out on a view like this, you don't look at a subdivision, especially on the top of the trees. And so we've had a great relationship with the Blue Ridge Parkway. We tried to do an overlook. I thought that would have been really good. I proposed that one. You got to have business, community, everybody on the same page, and we just didn't ever get on the same page. But I think there should be an overlook of the city of Asheville. It's such a beautiful place. It's the biggest city on the Parkway, and we really ought to honor it. But that one didn't work out, but we did a lot of good things with the Blue Ridge Parkway. We have a program that we're very proud of called the Conservation Easement Program. It's a voluntary program where people that have beautiful views, farms, significant areas, high elevation areas, can donate their development rights to Buncombe County.
And what started that in your last 20 years here was because farms started disappearing in Buncombe County. Think about Sandy Mush and Fairview and Barnersville and even out Black Mountain Way. The beautiful farmland that we've enjoyed looking at all of our lives just was going. It was turning into housing developments and commercial strips, and you just wanted to say, you know, stop. We got to stop. We have to do something. And that's something that you did. I was there. You were the champion.
Well, we always have to have 4 commissioners to do it. 3
but
back then.
somebody's got to push it.
Well, we were fortunate, and the farmers embraced it.
That's right.
They understood. There was one of the commissioners at the time bet me a steak dinner that no one would ever take us up on it.
That's right.
And there was a lot of fear that this was some kind of eminent domain, but it's actually been a wonderful program. I think
How many acres?
I think we've saved over 6,000 acres. And overall, a third of Buncombe County is permanently protected. So between all the different groups that the county hasn't been involved in, and the ones we have been, we've really gotten a lot of land protected for all time, and that's something, a legacy we should all be proud of.
Absolutely, and it took folks, taxpayer money is really a lot of what went in to protect the land. Now you got conservation groups to come in and do the majority of it, but it was a citizen investment that you guys spearheaded, so I think it's something for everybody to be proud of.
Well, oddly, when we found out what was really needed, it was surveys, and that was what the people didn't want to donate. They were willing to donate their land, but they felt that someone should pay for the surveying and all the legal paperwork, so actually we got into that. But it's been a wonderful partnership. The people have been good, the staff, the conservation easement groups have all worked together, and I think everybody's pushing the right way. You know, hopefully we can continue to build that program up and save more land. It'd be great if we had something like the Swamp Rabbit Trail or the Virginia Creeper Trail. That's something that we've got a master plan now that maybe one day we could put together. You have the possibilities on the Parkway, but it's a narrow road and it's dangerous. And so that might not be the right answer for what we're looking for. But the big thing is to keep it nice so our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and people that come beyond us can enjoy the same type views that we're looking at right now.
Absolutely.
We just live in a pretty place. We need to keep it that way, and it's always going to be a challenge because people want to move here to the pretty place.
That's right.
So you have to balance those rights, but I think we're doing good, and I hope we can continue to move that way because it's worth fighting for sure.
I agree, and you fought hard for it. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Okay, I'm glad you're back with us because we've come full circle, and we've come full circle in a lot of ways. We started over at the old courthouse where our first chambers were, where you became a commissioner and started over there, and then we made a little detour to the Parkway, and that was beautiful. And now we're back where you ended up. This was the chambers where you've been chairman for how many years?
8 years, Chairman.
8 years as chairman. So you've got quite a bit of experience, and there's people coming behind you now. As you leave, others will take your place. What would you tell them? What kind of advice would you give a new commissioner or a new chairman?
Well, I think the number one advice I give all new elected officials is to try to understand where you're at right now, understand your history, talk to the people that were in office before you, because all you ever do, even when you're first elected, you're warming the seat for the next person. And so it's not your seat, you don't own it, it's a position of trust for you. I think to understand the history of the group that you're getting ready to serve is very important. Listen to the staff. The staff really has good ideas. I think there's kind of a tendency of some commissioners to want to micromanage the whole operation. Not a good move. Listen to staff, get their advice, get to know the other commissioners. I think there should be a real premium on trust and friendship and knowing each other. And one thing I always tried to do that I think was helpful was you don't want to meet people for the first time when you want something. You want to know them before there's a need for assistance or help. And then you have a relationship, so it's not a stretch to ask for that help. But if you've not taken the time to get to know people, it's hard. I think it's great to go to every department and meet the department heads at where they operate. I think it's good to meet with other governments. We didn't do that quite as much as I would have liked, to meet with City Council, to meet with all the different other 6 municipality governments around here, the universities, the colleges, get to know the whole system. And I think if you take time to do that, then you'll be pretty in tune with what needs to be done and what will be best for Buncombe County.
What do you hope to see this new group accomplish? Maybe some things that you would like to see get finished that didn't, or new things they might jump on. What do you think? What would you like to see them do?
Well, I think we need a new civic center. That's something that didn't get done. I think that's something that'll take a lot of work with the city and the state of North Carolina. I'd like to see us one day be a place where every working mother has a daycare that he or she can trust to go to and take care of the child, so no one has to worry about that. That's monumentally big. And then just build on what other people did. We need to get back to our zoning plan. We have way too much what's called open use zoning, which is just really not zoning, but it's just kind of, there are a couple things you can't do with your property. We need to get serious about that so that people are really protected, their land investments are protected, and they have options. I would look at the zoning again and maybe add some categories. Sometimes there are tough votes about zoning, about what could happen. It's not going to happen with this particular owner, but it'd be nice to have some other options. And I think maybe to revisit that. I think it was just so painful for people to go through I called them zoning wars, which, you know, was just to get them started. So I think those are some things. And I always look at the Blue Ridge Parkway and the U.S. Forest Service and see if we can do more there. Greenways, I think that'll be on the agenda, and just continuing to build and keep things up. It's not real sexy to keep up existing buildings, but there's some governments that don't do that, and then when they do get around to fixing up their buildings, it costs 5 or 6 times as much as it would have if they'd done ongoing maintenance.
And doing all those things, and this is something I think you guys have done very well the last 20 years, doing all those things you've just said, while balancing a tax rate that our citizens can afford, and keeping values where they should be. I know everybody's not always happy with what their value is, but you know, balancing all that and still moving forward. That's a very difficult thing to balance.
It is. It's real easy to go one way or the other, and I think our country swings that way. I think that we're so polarized there. But I think there's a happy balance. I think if you show people where the money's going and what it's being used for, most people are more accepting than if you do it in the dark and just spend money and not very transparent about what you're doing with it. Because I think everybody here wants good education, they want good environment, they want a good place to work and live and retire. So we're on the same page on most things. It's just how to get there.
Well, now tell me, when you tell us all goodbye that first Monday in December, what are you going to do? What are your future plans other than being an attorney like you have been the last 20 years?
Well, I'll do more attorney work, spend more time with my family, and just spend more David time, frankly, travel a little bit more. It's been a great experience. I'll definitely like to be involved in some way. I'll be on the airport board as long as the board, this board wants me to be. And it'll be fun. I think I'll do a little bit more, a little bit less hectic life, and slow down a little bit. I'll be 60 this year, so it's time to start looking toward retirement and move that way.
Yeah, hey, sounds good. Sounds pretty good to me. So as we finish up our walk down memory lane here, give you a few minutes to say something to the folks at home if you want to.
Well, I would just like to say how honored I've been to be on the commission. I've met some wonderful people. I've worked with wonderful people. I think we've gotten a lot done together. And I would just urge people in the national climate of trying to polarize and demonize each other to remember that we all want the same things. We want to have a good place for your kids to be raised and go to school. You want a good place to work where you can find a good job. You want a good place to recreate and go out to parks and enjoy yourself. And you want a good place to retire. So I think if we can focus on the things that we agree on, we can probably find solutions and ways to get there in a reasonable manner. I think Buncombe County government runs well. We're blessed to have someone like Kathy Hughes as our clerk, and Wanda Green as our manager. They're wonderful people. They're public service to the highest degree. Jerry Vihan, for example, has been here over 40 years. And so I think if we can just continue to tap into their talents and set policies that are based on thoughtful input from people of Buncombe County, we're going to have a great place to live forever. And I'm very optimistic about the way our county's going. I'm very optimistic about the potential for our country. I think we just got to stop pointing fingers at each other and trying to make each other look bad. Let's talk about doing good things for people. And I don't think that's so Pollyanna-ish that you can't do that. And I believe if we work that way and we demand that of our elected officials, we're going to have a good county and we're going to get the right things done that need to be done. A lot of things that will happen in the future we don't know, we don't even have a clue about right now. So we try to anticipate as best we can. We have the best schools, we have the best earning opportunities. We try to continue to have affordable housing and opportunities for people to be the best they can. And I think if you give that hand up instead of hand out, everything works well. And thank you for the opportunity to serve you. It's been a real pleasure. I've enjoyed it. And I'm sure the people that will follow me will do even better and brighter things.
So, he's not really leaving, but I think you've had a wonderful, great 20 years here, and a good way to end it, the way you wanted to.
Well, I've been blessed to work with wonderful commissioners, wonderful staff, and I think the commission's in good shape. I think the county's in good shape, so I would expect more of the same, and I hope that's the way it rolls.
There you go. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. I hope you enjoyed this edition. I sure did. It was a great trip. We were in the front of the courthouse where we spent so much time, so many years, and then up on the Parkway, and I know David was so proud of the conservation things that he's done here in this county. And then the way he ended and what he said, that was truly from his heart, and that's who he was. He loved to bring people together, and that's really what a public servant does. So I hope you enjoyed this edition, and as always, stay tuned. You never know where we'll be next month.